Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. I just want to talk to you a little bit about a concept that you may or may not have heard of. It's called net neutrality. And as we're all aware, regardless of our age or our occupation or whatever category you might find yourself in, all of us seem to rely on the internet these days and things we do. Yeah, whether it's for entertainment purposes or social networking or for work or just for general information. We've all come to rely on the internet pretty heavily. You could even say it's almost become as important as, say, our utilities like the telephone or even electricity. And in the same way that we don't really question how the telephone gets into our lives or electricity gets into our homes and makes our lives easier, rarely do any of us really question how the internet operates and functions. But the fact is, as I'm speaking, there's a lot going on policy-wise between the major players of the internet and the government regarding regulations. So the truth is, the future of the internet is really at stake in the upcoming months on policies and regulations that are going to happen. So what I'm trying to say is, due to our heavy reliance on the internet anymore, I think it's pretty imperative that we're all aware, or at least have some knowledge of this hot button topic known as net neutrality. So I'm going to explain what net neutrality is. What it means is that all internet users, this is a definition I got here, all internet users should have the right to send and receive information, surf the web, or really just access any legitimate or legal type of websites that they see fit, regardless of the lines of transmission that they elect to use. So in other words, what that means is, it shouldn't matter whether you use, say, AT&T or Verizon, Comcast. It shouldn't matter who you use. You should be able to access any website with the same kind of ease, the same kind of accessibility. And this may seem obvious to people because right now, when we're online, that's the way things are. That is, this idea of net neutrality does exist. But in the months to come, in the time to come, there could be there might be certain legislation that could compromise this. So it's just something to be aware of. It's not really obvious to these ISPs, these internet service providers, like I said, Verizon, AT&T, or Comcast. It's not obvious to them because, see, they think that since they spend so much money in creating this network and creating these pipelines that all these different websites use, they think that they deserve to have some say on what gets through or how easily it gets through. And of course, these websites like Google and Yahoo and Facebook, they have a problem with this because of course it's going to cost them money. But the thing is, there's really a theoretical problem with it, and I'll explain that. See, there's the big issue is with this idea of broadband. And you have to understand that broadband is like a resource, like any other resource. It has limitations. And the ISPs are arguing that these big websites like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, like the ones I just named, they're kind of dominating this resource. So they think that since they're dominating this resource, that they should pay more to use these pipelines that I was just talking about. Kind of makes sense, but the thing is, the major problem is that if these ISPs are able to filter these things out, if they're able to block certain websites, or if they're able to play favorites and put say a website that they own that's similar to one of these big websites, that it's really going to compromise competition. It's going to compromise the flow of information. It's going to compromise the integrity of the internet as it is right now. Of course, proponents of net neutrality, they feel that this free flow of information, this uninhibited competition, is really the backbone and the life force of the internet. It's really the original design of the internet, and this is what we want to keep it this way, of course. So who should be in control, and how much control should they have? Of course, there needs to be some kind of regulation. There needs to be some kind of laws put in place for something as mammoth as the internet is. So, of course, the FCC believes that they have this authority because of prior communication laws, that they obviously thought that this was their authority, this is something they should take care of. Well, recently Comcast has, the company Comcast has challenged this authority, and an appellate court ruled in favor of Comcast. So this was a blow to the idea of net neutrality. So it's a real blow. So it's a complicated situation, because not only do we have to figure out these rules and these guidelines and these regulations, they also have to figure out who gets to make them. You know, obviously Congress has to get involved, and the FCC still stays there, but you know, this complicates the problem because they have to figure out who gets to say what. Now, of course, in the past, the FCC had, you know, they have a legitimate reason to feel that they have this authority, because different utilities like the telephone companies or television and eventually cable TV, they've had to step in and set guidelines for these kind of modes of communication. But it's difficult to just throw the internet in like that, because the internet encompasses so many different avenues of communication, as well as a whole lot of corporations, big and small. And this is really evident in an official public notice that the FCC put out. And I'm going to read you this quote that the FCC put out. The FCC said that no longer is broadband simply just another service. It's a growing platform over which the consumer accesses a multitude of services, which include voice, data, and video in an integrated way across applications and providers. So that being said, what should we expect in this near future? Well, the truth is, traditional communication policies just aren't sufficient. And this complicated commodity that's known as broadband, it's so complicated that what we have in place now just isn't enough to figure these things out. So Congress and these ISPs and let's see, the communication industry at large, they have, the FCC of course, they have a long road ahead of them. And they have a lot of work ahead of them. So it's kind of a wait and see situation. And even though I'm calling it a wait and see situation, since me and you and everybody else is going to be so greatly affected by it, I think we should all be aware and have a good bit of concern about what's going on. Because if this idea of net neutrality is compromised in any way, the internet will be compromised, and it'll lose its essence. That free flow of communication, information, and that uninhibited competition, if that gets lost, then the internet, as we use it on a daily basis anymore, that could get lost. And that's kind of a scary thought. You know, most importantly, you have to understand that it could become costly to us. You know, we might have to pay for it. If they start charging these companies to use their pipelines, eventually those companies are going to charge us. This is the way things always work out. So, on a final note, like I said, presently, I don't know if I said this, but there are agreements in place for net neutrality as it stands right now. There's agreements between the companies and the FCC and the government that net neutrality does exist. But this could rapidly change in the upcoming months. So if you happen to feel that you see a violation of net neutrality, I just want to let you know that you can go on the FCC's website and you know, put a complaint in and make them aware of this. I'll just leave you on that. Thank you.
Are you taking any